The demand for lithium is there, and it's real. It's organic, and it's set to grow.
This is Jaymartin.
Niko, it's great to see you. Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me, Jay.
Now, pleasure's all mine. So here's where I want to start. Most people are very curious about what's occurring in Argentina right now. You're very locked in that country with actually a couple different companies who are doing pretty great things. What's your take on Malay's economic shock therapy policy, as he's called it, and the impact thus far?
Yeah. Well, Argentina has been, in a economic dire straits for quite some time.
Yeah.
And there's been a number of administrations that have been coming in and going, and things weren't changing. Things were getting worse. And you could see that. You could see the inflation that was ramping up. Right up until he was getting elected, inflation was approaching 200%. It was just
200%.
Impossible for us, sitting here in Vancouver to really comprehend when we're only thinking, 5% inflation or whatever. So since he's come in, Argentina needed a new approach, right, in order to have a reset and to adjust things economically there. And he's been in power now since, 6-8 months. Inflation is under control. Is everything under control? No, but he's steering things towards the right way. He's deregulating a lot of issues, a lot of business regulators. He's allowing companies to have access less red tape. He's he's taken a common sense approach, and that seems to be resonating with investors. And Argentina right now, you read in the general newspapers, people will look at it and think, wow, this is a country that's worthy of investment. And we're seeing that. We're seeing many large multinational companies announcing new projects all the time in that country. And so far, he's doing a great job. He's making it very business friendly. He sees growth as the way out of their economic rut that they've been in for some decades now.
That's interesting. I feel like the mining industry is often the first mover in opportunities like that. And the first positive news that I was seeing about doing business in Argentina was all resource companies.
Yeah.
They were the first to move back in aggressively, start, reallocating capital. And I always wondered though, because it's been a bumpy road for Argentina since his election, right? You can't turn around 200% inflation and everything else that was going wrong with that country overnight. And he was elected on the promise that he was going to make things worse before he made things better. And I thought, how brave of a politician, but also amazing that he got elected on that, with that campaign, because you could never imagine in the West, in Canada, America, a politician who actually stepped up and said, look, we have a serious debt problem. Inflation isn't going to go away no matter what they're telling you. It's going to get worse. I can fix this, but it's going to get worse before it gets better. No one's casting that vote.
Yeah.
Because things have to get really bad for a really long time before eventually people say, I don't know what it is, but we have to try something different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very unique.
That's where
case,
Argentina
right?
got to. Argentina got to that point.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Milei before the election, when I first saw him, this guy looks crazy.
Yeah, sure. He was radical.
He was radical.
Yeah.
He come out stage chainsaws and, heavy metal bands. They think, what the heck is with this guy?
Yeah.
But it needed somebody like that. It needed not just to be a populist, but somebody with the knowledge of, okay, I've got a plan.
Yes.
And trust me, this is going to work. And he's making headway.
And he's making headway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think inflation's down to like 15 or 18%, which sounds really high for us, but that's down from 200. So it's all relative, right? My buddy Diego manages money in Buenos Aires. And I always loved chatting with him over the last 2 years because I was like, how do you manage money in a 150% inflation environment? That's a job that I can't even understand. When he's reducing price controls, this is interesting. I really wonder how much Western leaders are watching his abolishment of price controls, like Buenos Aires rent controls, for example. And as soon as he abolished rent controls, new supply rushed to the market because people who weren't renting in a controlled environment are keen to now, and rents have come down by 40%.
That's right.
Simultaneously, we're talking about implementing price controls up here. I mean, it's a bit wild.
It's the complete opposite. We're thinking backwards. He's thinking forwards. And, remember my economics 101 class was more supply, the same amount of demand.
Yeah.
It's going to result in prices dropping. So that's really what the issue is.
Yeah.
What we're doing here is, I don't know, I don't totally agree with it. But what's happening down there is intriguing. And I think we're seeing money beginning to flow back in there. Lots of new multinationals coming in that are making, major, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of investment in Argentina. And in mining, of course, Argentina is a big country. It's the 7th largest country by landmass. Mm-hmm. And it's a relative newcomer to the mining industry in general. The mining industry's been open for 30, 31 years. And so there's a lot that, in terms of our country's mining history, that's nothing. That's a blip. Chile, which is a neighboring country there, it's been in the mining industry for hundreds of years. So then they have a very well-developed and well-respected mining industry. Argentina, there's a lot of low fruit that remain to be picked. And that really is the main attraction. And now with the new economic environment, we're seeing, okay, this is a country now that's de-risked, that's business friendly, and looks very different than all the countries completely surrounding it. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, from pariah, Argentina has become a darling for a destination for mining. So this is, we've been there all along. We've been active in Argentina for 31 years as Grosso Group.
Yeah.
Grosso Group being the management team that manages different companies that we operate, depending what the commodity is. We've had a lot of success there, but now we're seeing so many large companies knocking on our doors and saying, how can we partner with this? Or how can we do some business here? Companies that in the past would, Argentina, they would just walk out of the room.
Yeah. And, it wasn't that long ago, like maybe 150 years, Argentina was one of the wealthiest countries in the world.
Yeah.
Right?
The rich G7 country.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And then turns out you can't regulate an economy to growth. It does the opposite. You mentioned there's a lot of low-hanging fruit in Argentina, and you'd have to assume there is because of how laden with resources we know Chile is. And resources don't stop at the border. It's the policies that change. And so walk me through your expectation for Argentina from a mineral resource standpoint, the activity you're seeing, and what makes you optimistic. Niko.
Well, I mean, you said it, resources don't stop at the border. And in Argentina, the Chilean-Argentina borders are demarked by the highest peaks of the Andes as they run up like a rib cage, like a spine along. On the one side, you've got Chile. On the other side, you've got Argentina. And most of the mines in Chile are up along this border.
A lot of them. Yeah.
So if there's a deposit and a mine on this side, I mean, God would have to be awful cruel not to allow that deposit to flow through to the other side. Yeah. It doesn't take a person with a specialized geology degree to see that opportunity. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we recognized 31 years ago. It was virtually undiscovered, an opportunity that comes around once in a lifetime. So we were, I think, the number 7 company to get incorporated in Argentina in mining.
You were.
And right. That's right. And since that time, we've made a number of discoveries. And now with this new, improved environment, I think we're in a position to significantly expand on that.
So, everybody that watches my show is probably familiar with the Golden Triangle in BC. I'd say far less would be familiar with the Lithium Triangle, which is Argentina, Chile, and Bolivia.
That's right.
Could you introduce that piece of geography to my audience?
Yeah, that's in northwestern Argentina. There's, like you said, there's a lithium, what is referred to as a Lithium Triangle. It encompasses part of southern Bolivia, part of eastern Chile, and a big chunk of northwestern Argentina. And within there, about 60% of the world's lithium resources lie. And they're not just lithium resources in clays or in hard rock. They're lithium resources in brines. And that's significant because when lithium is found in brines, it makes itself amenable to very low cost ways to produce it. So it's extremely economic.
When you say brine, this is like a salt water lake.
Like a salt brine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have these big salt lakes there that they're not potable, they're not usable, but they contain vast amounts of lithium. And then you look at the three countries and you assess, and you look at Bolivia. Bolivia's got its own internal sort of political problems. It's got great lithium resources. It's going to be quite some time before they develop anything, if ever.
Yeah.
In Chile, they have big resources there. They're one of the largest producers of lithium in the world. But there's an economic and political environment there that's beginning to hinder that. The government is beginning to put its hand in a little heavier, and a lot of lithium companies are avoiding Chile right now. Argentina is going completely the opposite way. Just like in our opening here when we started our discussion, Argentina is liberating, inviting companies to come into do exploration in lithium. And like I said, many discoveries remain yet to be made. There's been no exploration. Yeah. So this is like a dreamland for Canadian resource companies that have the know-how to go in there and to look at all these vast areas and vast supplies. And very quickly, Argentina has been making a lot of big discoveries right now, and is set to overtake Chile and become one of the largest lithium producers in the world. So these are the kinds of opportunities that come by, like I said, once in a lifetime, that investors that are invested with the right companies can really come out and do very, very well.
And walk me through global lithium production today. It's Australia, it's Chile, it's Argentina, it's China, I believe. Are those kind of the front runners?
Those are the front runners. Oh, no, that's right. Those are the front runners.
Okay. And then other end user, what are the primary consumers right now of lithium and trajectories moving forward?
Well, lithium, the big driver for lithium demand is batteries.
Yeah.
Like you have in your cell phone, your laptop, but more importantly, electric vehicles. And that really is what's driving the price of lithium. Lithium has a history of a boom and bust sort of cycles.
Yes.
And the last boom here, which ended about a year ago, the price went from just a few $1,000s a ton to like $80,000 a ton. Now it's come down to like tens of thousands of dollars a ton. But that's all cyclical. And plus, because the market is very opaque and China is such a big player in this, and there's talk about, there's some Chinese manipulation or hoarding of lithium. So the price of lithium, is not that apparent, but we're seeing right now lithium exchange traded funds and some of the larger companies beginning to make a turnaround. So we could be back onto a backswing here.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I know is we talk to car companies. In fact, Stellantis, one of the third largest car company in the world, is our partner.
Yes.
In our projects in Argentina. And they're on us. They need lithium delivered by such and such a date.
Yeah.
The demand for lithium is there, and it's real. It's organic, and it's set to grow because, electric vehicle companies that get taken up by, sales to the public. Some years, maybe good years, there could be a recession. We slow down a bit. The time frames could be adjusted, but the overall demand for lithium for over the long run is definitely there. So I know that we're in the right commodity here.
And when you say Stellantis partnered with you guys, just to add some context to that, Stellantis, if you're not familiar, major car manufacturer, owns companies like Chrysler and Dodge and many, many more, invested $90 million into Argentina Lithium last year.
That's right.
Very favorable terms, by the way. I want to get into that in a minute, but the reason I went into end user case was because, frankly, I knew where you were going to go, right? Batteries, electric vehicles. But the reason for that question was because China just fired, I think, the first shot of the stimulus bazooka, right?
Yep,
this is a major announcement. And at a scale that we haven't seen China execute since 2008, 16 years. Every other economy has done massive stimulus measures except China, but now they're firing. And when they fired that bazooka, as it was called, the $4 trillion bazooka in 2008, which ended up being $9.5 trillion by the time they were done, that fueled the greatest commodity market probably the world's ever seen. Right. And people say, it was urbanization in China. It's like, on the heels of massive stimulus. That's what occurred. And the first shot was just fired recently. Right. And this is, obviously a drop in interest rates, drop in reserve ratio requirements for banks so they can instigate more lending. decreased principal down payment on homes, subsidizing local governments, funding bank loans specific for companies to buy back their own shares. It's very full spectrum.
Yep.
And interestingly, there's about $1 trillion yuan going direct to households to fund what I think in the West we call the Cash for Clunkers program, which means they're incentivized to trade in their old appliances for smart technology.
That's right.
Everything from cars to toilets, all of it, right? It's incentivized to make that trade. And when I saw that headline, knowing that it's going to be the first of a few, that's what I believe. Time will tell if I'm right, but I would put a lot of money on that being correct. That is a massive tailwind for the commodities market inside of an economy that wants to run the EV market. Right? It's very big, is it not? What's your take on that?
Well, I agree, and that's really going to drive. China's looking to electrify their entire country, and they are the leader in that right now. They're in terms of number of cars, electric cars on the road, and production. They are leader by far.
By far,
even more than Tesla and all other companies that we have here, and we're playing catch up. So while China incentivizes that, and that will continue as people go out and seek to buy electric vehicles or any kind of technology, there's lithium in there, and that's going to drive up the demand for lithium. So, like I was saying earlier, the demand for lithium is here to stay and for the long term. So, as that continues, I think the backdrop, for lithium companies as we make new lithium discoveries, they'll become even more and more valuable, and we'll be even more incentivized to continue to invest, into making more and more discoveries. So, the environment for mining exploration could not be better in terms of that. And with us, with Argentina Lithium, being already having received funds from Stellantis, we've got our exploration programs paid out for the next coming years here, and we can ride out all these kinds of ebbs and flows in the price of the lithium market, and just continue and keep our eye focused on what the overall objective is. And in many ways, I like to think that, my job is to deliver value for our shareholders, but what's the best way to do that is to focus on these medium, long-term objectives and run it almost like you're running a private company. Where you're aiming for success, and you're not being bothered by the little blips that appear to you along the way. And I think that is really a strategy for success. Yeah, well, 100%. And 90 million cash in the bank really helps with that strategy, right? Especially in a volatile market. That's when a lot of companies are going to have to raise cash and massively dilute. And so let's back up for a minute. I want to talk about that deal. I know we talked about it the last time you and I sat down, but let's do a refresher, right? The market cycles move pretty fast these days. So Stellantis, why do they have such confidence in you, Niko? $90 million investment. Walk me through the structure of that and how you received the capital, et cetera. Well, they made two investments in Argentina, one in McEwen Copper and one in Argentina Lithium. One in McEwen Copper, one in Argentina Lithium. Those are the two companies that they're invested in. They did a big research to see where they should be investing their money. We were under their due diligence microscope for well over a year. They brought in some of the most knowledgeable engineering and geological, technical, financial teams to examine us and to understand what the opportunity was. And they felt that Argentina Lithium, not just the projects, but also the team behind it that could actually achieve to deliver to Stellantis what they were looking for. At the end of the day, they're looking to get lithium. It's an optionality for them to acquire. They're securing supply. That's exactly what they're doing. Copper, they're securing supply. That's right. They can't secure supply from China. They have to get out there and find companies that will deliver that to them. So they've chosen us. And then it was late last year. It was $90 million US. Mind you, this was demarcated in pesos equivalent at the official exchange rate. Okay. So we closed the deal. We received those funds in an environment of 200+% of inflation. And it's kind of like having a dollar bill with a fire at the end of it, right? So what do you do with that kind of money? Well, You very quickly, you prepay a lot of the services you're going to be needing.
As many as possible, I imagine.
We bought, we bought tens of millions of dollars of drilling, geophysics. We looked at our properties, and some of them, they're option properties. We bought out the property payments on our flagship projects, and then we moved some of the money out of the country as well. So we're sitting here right now with our exploration programs pretty well prepaid for the next 2 or 3 years, and basically focused now on making our discoveries, which our drill results are panning out. Announce our new resource calculation, and to move towards doing a PEA, PFS, and so forth, and ultimately to production.
Yes. Okay. So let's jump into the projects. Where do you want to start?
We have 4 projects in the lithium triangle. 2 of these projects are what we consider our flagship projects, and they're flagship for 2 reasons. One is the Rincon West, where we're actively drilling on right now. We're in Rincon West. Rio Tinto actually a few years ago paid $80 million to acquire their project there. So the Rincon West, Rio Tinto has a big footprint there, and Argosy Minerals is there, another producer, and then us. We're basically the only players in this salar. Salar, I mean Salt Lake.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks.
So this is a flagship property for us because we know there's lithium there. The results that we're getting are very much along the lines what both those other companies and Rio Tinto have been getting, and we're on track for generating our maiden resource in the first, probably I suspect in the first quarter of 2025.
Okay.
Yeah, and in fact, we just announced the results this morning, continuing to get excellent results in the mid-grade of lithium. By mid-grade, I mean between 250 and 350, 400 milligrams per liter lithium.
Okay.
So, our other project is...
Sorry, I have one more question on that one. What's the dynamic, what's the advantage, or what's the strategy, I guess? Obviously bordering with a company like Rio is significant. And I just got to pull on that thread for a minute there. Is there a high level strategy you can share with me? Is there is there communication?
Do we want to sell to Rio Tinto? If they pay the premium, we'd love to sell to Rio Tinto. Is that our only option? No, it's not our only option. The idea is to have a standalone project on its own.
Okay.
That can be competitive, with any other opportunity out there.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the goal, develop a maiden resource to be competitive, standalone on its own.
That's right.
With you.
All right. And the same situation with the Antofalla North project. That's our other flagship property. That one is a much larger property. It's almost triple the size of a Rincon property. That one borders just to the north of where Albemarle has a huge resource deposit right now. In fact, they announced that it's their largest lithium deposit in Argentina. They haven't disclosed how big it is because they don't have to, but that's according to their website. That's what they've indicated. So that is also another mid-grade type of 250 to 400 milligrams per liter lithium, and we haven't started drilling there yet, but we have begun doing our geophysical work. Geophysics seems to work very, very well in helping us to guide not just where to drill, but where we could anticipate that the underground aquifers or rivers or lakes there are lithium bearing.
Okay. How does drilling within a lithium discovery differ from gold, silver, and a hard rock application?
I had to learn that very quickly. It just you're drilling with hard rock, and you could be putting out a drill hole a day, or sometimes every couple of days. Here, it takes a month to complete a drill. A drill hole. Yeah. The drill holes are deep. They go 350, 400 meters in depth, maybe deeper sometimes, depending. And as they go down, then you need to sample every few meters the brine as it comes in very carefully. So it's a very slow, tedious process, but that's just the way it is. And besides the timing, which takes longer than drilling in hard rock, I kind of refer to it as where mining meets oil and gas.
Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of a hybrid between these two types of industries that come together.
Okay. So presently exploring on the 2 flagship properties. You have 2 other projects as well.
Yep.
And what's the activity on those look like right
Those are much larger projects, over 25,000 hectare plus projects. We've been able to acquire them quite cheaply. From the work that has been done on them in the past or from neighboring companies there, the grade of the lithium is much, much lower. And it's in a range of 100 to 150 milligrams per liter, so it's less than
100
half.
to 150.
Yeah. But because of their vast size, there's potentially a huge lithium resource there, but extracting it economically may not be just yet. What we're anticipating...
You're not going to start there.
No. Yeah. The really high-grade lithium deposits have already been acquired, and most of them are going into production in Argentina.
Okay.
And they usually go into production either by these evaporation ponds, in which they suck the brine out, they evaporate it to crystallize it, and that takes time and energy, and it's an expensive process, and not very good at recovering all the lithium that's in there, depending on the signature of the types of impurities one finds there. There's a new way of now that's continuing to evolve, a new method to extract lithium, known as direct lithium extraction technology. And this is like it's like a diffusion or ionic absorption. It's a chemical process can extract lithium much cheaper, much quicker, much smaller environmental footprint, and using a lot less energy. And some of them, these have been developed in the last 5 years mostly, and they continue to improve. This is an emerging technology, and some of them are beginning to look very, very good and very economic. So we're looking at these types of technologies, and we figure as we focus on a higher grade, mid-grade, 2 projects that we've got now, in a few years' time, there'll be such a demand for lithium and the technology will have reached the point where we can extract the lithium out of these other projects much, much more economically than we can today.
Right.
So they're projects for the future, so to speak.
They're projects for the future, right? Wait for the lithium price to adjust, maybe moving the economics on these projects a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Niko, what's your take on the lithium market? And do you see right now a disparity between the price of the commodity and the general share price of the companies? And I have this conversation with, as you can imagine, every commodity, gold, silver, copper, you name it. This situation exists to a very large extent today. It's sort of an anomaly within history, actually, the disparity that exists today. Walk me through your take on that gap between the commodity price and the general equity performance in the lithium sector.
Well, even with the pullback of the commodity price of lithium, trading at $10,000 or $15,000 per ton or $20,000 per ton, and in many companies being able to operate with direct lithium extraction technologies at sub $5,000 per ton, there's a huge profit potential to be made there.
Yeah.
And that's not factored into the price of any of the companies, not our company, and not even any of our peer companies that are active in Argentina. And that's a real frustration, from my vantage point.
Sure.
But what can be done about it? And there are many reasons for this. The commodity, we're seeing this not just in lithium or specific to our company. I'm seeing this across the board, like you said, to gold companies, copper companies.
Oh yeah.
There's a real disconnect, and it's almost like this big aversion of risk or lack of investors that are paying attention to this sector. And I think what's going to take to change that is as the commodity environment now begins to improve, new discoveries get made. And these new discoveries that get made and move forward, especially the more spectacular ones, they, I think, begin to illustrate again to, the average investor that a fortune could be made here. This is where a penny stock can trade in terms of in the dollars in short order because of it. And I think as these types of events begin to transpire, I think it's going to capture the attention of the retail investors and some of the institutional investors. They need to have a part of this. I think those funds have, for whatever reason, been sucked out of the market, and they need a reason to come back in.
Yeah. Now,
it's been a flight to safety.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. Now, it's funny because I see it as the opposite of that when you're buying these crazy valued NASDAQ companies. Nothing about that seems safe to me, right? But
Yeah.
it is what it is. I totally get it.
It's where the herd is.
It's where the herd is. Yes. Safety in numbers for sure. Could you give me an estimate of the sort of average all-in sustaining cost of a lithium producer within the lithium triangle? What would you think that would be?
I think I've seen companies, feasibility studies that can come in and they can produce at $3,000 or $2,000 per ton.
$3,000, $2,000.
$4,000.
Right.
And I say even at $5,000 per ton, if you can pocket $10,000,
Yeah. It's a good business.
and you've got 1 million tons, there's a lot of money there.
There's a lot of money there. And I ask that because, sometimes this earnings reports, institutional investors need to see hard data, not just sentiment and fundamentals.
Yeah.
They need to see financials, right? And as we're seeing a few earnings quarters come out now, increasingly favorable, a lot of companies are much more cashed up. Copper's another great example. Silver's another great example of producers now pocketing a ton of cash. The market doesn't seem to care yet, and it seems to be the same in the lithium sector from my perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exactly the same thing. We're part of the mining industry. So those trends carry across.
It is exactly the same. Yeah. Biggest catalyst that prospective investors can look forward to with Argentina Lithium over the next 6 months, Niko?
I think number one will be announcement of our main resource.
Yeah.
That's going to be the big one that's going to, I think, capture the attention of people who are watching us and say, okay.
Yeah.
And then the next steps forward, of course, will be to take this resource and do an economic study and move it very quickly to either pre-feasibility or straight to a feasibility study. The idea, we're looking to fast track as quickly as possible to get to production. That's the pressure, not the pressure, but that's kind of our partnership with Stellantis. That's what they would like to see us do. And we're doing everything we can, and they're working very closely with us to provide us whatever support that they can provide us to ensure that we can achieve that.
What does the general capex of a lithium mine build look like?
Well, depending on the size of the resource, but typically I've seen capex is ranging from $250 million up to $1 billion.
Okay.
On average, for 1 million tons of lithium carbonate, maybe 400 million.
Okay.
So it's not extraordinarily high either.
Yeah. So maiden resource. In the next few months, right? And I'd say positive pressure from your partner to move to feasibility shortly thereafter, right? That's their agenda, and they're backing it up with cash, which is to your interest, right? It's a good deal for you and your shareholders. Great deal, actually. Anything else you want to share with my audience today, Niko?
Well, that, and then we have our other project under Faya. We expect to begin drilling on that next year too. So that's, another quick way to continue to build our resources. So, our plate is full. Our work programs are fully underway. Our people are busy in Argentina. We're generating news out there, and like I said at the beginning, keeping my eye on the company, like as if it's a private company, and let's achieve these objectives and get through whatever storms that we may encounter along the way.
Yeah, the best public companies are run like private companies, honestly. Yeah, right. Actually, I want to pull on that thread real quickly. Timeline for Antofalla. You're drilling right now, exploring. You walk me through the timeline of the drill cadence with Lithium Company and how that differs. I appreciate that context. News flow from Antofalla. What can we expect? Well,
as we get the permits coming in for drilling, and then we commence on drilling every month or so, then we complete a hole. And in fact, we would be looking to double up some of the drilling because we have so much prepaid in drilling.
Yeah, okay.
We have a great relationship. This is one of the largest drilling companies in Argentina. We can call in and have 2 drill rigs and have 2 operations going at the same time. So we can accelerate our exploration programs, generate twice the amount of news, move our projects forward in half the amount of time. At a time when most companies are trying to save pennies and quiet.
or scrape together necessary financings. You guys have prepaid for a couple of years of drilling programs.
That's right.
Yeah, I love that. Hey, Niko, it was great chatting with you and getting your take on Argentina politics. To be honest, I was really looking forward to chatting with you about that, and obviously getting caught up on Argentina Lithium. Congratulations on your success thus far.
Thank you.
And we're going to stay on top of it. But thanks for coming in today.
been my pleasure. Thank you.